Alright, all you glorious gamers out there, welcome to the Players 2 podcast, the video game podcast for gamers like you, by gamers like you. You can find Players 2 on all the social media, that's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, the lot. You can also find our written content over at players2.com, that's playerstoo.com. And if you could take 5 seconds to give us 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, that would really, really, really help us out. There's a huge amount for the exposure of the show. And while you're over there, if you could leave us a little review as well, that helps us out so much. And you would be an absolute legend to us. So thank you to anyone that's already done that for us. It genuinely does mean a lot. Alright, and on with the show. My name is Mark Henderson. With me, as always, Mr. Lewis Camley. How's it going, Lewis?
It's going very well, Mark. Good to see you again as ever, which is something that I do say pretty much every week these days, but it has actually been a couple of weeks since we've seen each other or spoken very much, so it's very nice to be back in front of a screen in front of you. Mark, how you doing?
In front of a screen in front of you. Yeah, that's like lyrical measure of this entire lockdown situation, I think, just about, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. Screens within screens within screens. That's living these days,
man. Absolutely. But yes, we have been on holiday. We have been on holiday for a little while. Both of us have literally been away from our homes for the first time since 2019.
Pretty much,
2019
yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a very, very welcome break. Lewis has been stressed out of his nut. I, quite frankly, just wanted to go on holiday, so it worked out quite well. I hope everyone enjoyed Lewis's Desert Island Discs the other week there. I know that we did have 1 week off, but the week before we did Lewis's Desert Island Discs. I do have to apologise for the audio quality on that. I have no idea what happened. I still don't know what happened, but there just seemed to be a lot of background noise, which really, really annoyed me. I hope it didn't distract from the episode, because I had a lot of fun making that one personally.
Yeah, me too. I really hope people did enjoy it. Persevered through that background noise. I thought it was a really good one to record, and I hope people enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. Lewis, I would normally ask you here as well what you've been playing this week, but I'm going first this time to tell everyone that I've not been playing very much at all. Basically, while I was on holiday, I took a conscious effort to not look at social media so much and not play video games so much and not give myself these obligations and just basically try and chill the fuck out and relax, Lewis. That's basically what I was trying to do. So
Very
actually,
good.
I've not been playing a great deal since you last heard my voice, ladies and gentlemen. But Lewis, while I was away on holiday, I was away with a group of friends and they are all quite into Dead by Daylight. And Lewis, I have to say, that game has way more to it than I gave it credit for. A really, really interesting and good game that I just would have had very, very little exposure to hadn't it been for them, so I was pretty grateful for that. We also played quite a lot of the party game Heave Ho, which if you've not played and you are getting together with a group of friends on your Switch and there's at least 4 of you, the co-op mode in that is some of the most fun I've had playing a video game, frankly. We laughed so much at that game. It was just really, really fantastic. But apart from that, Lewis, now that I'm back off holiday and that I am starting to reintroduce video games to my life, I have played a little bit of Nier Replicant, not a huge amount yet. I am enjoying the fact that it is playing a lot like Nier Automata, which I absolutely loved. I still don't really know what the fuck is happening in the wider spectrum of the game, and I think that is deliberate on the game's part. But Lewis, I have to tell you about one game, and it's a mobile game. So I know, right? And it is Clap Hands Golf, and I don't often like to use the term addicted when it comes to video games because I think it has very bad connotations and I think people use it a bit liberally, but I was damn nearly addicted to this, man. I was thinking about playing this game so much. It is so much fun and I don't really know why. It's basically just a whimsical golf game, but at its core it's just a golf game. But it's really good and really good fun. I would really recommend anyone play it. I basically sort of like completed it, quote unquote, and that I rolled credits on it. But I mean, you could play the thing endlessly. Of course you could. So that's really what I've been playing since I've been away. I'm very much looking forward to getting back into video games again, Lewis. I've had a little break, consciously had a little break, and I've very much enjoyed that. But I very much am ready now. I'm ready to jump back in, Lewis.
Well, good, because there's a lot of bloody games to get played. So
God almighty, there certainly is. Good grief. In the 2 weeks that we've taken off, so much has happened.
It has indeed, yeah. Well, I guess I'm fairly similar this week, Mark, in that obviously with work being so busy across August, I mean, I was basically not gaming at all for most of a month, even to relax. It just wasn't feasible. It wasn't happening. So in the couple of weeks that I've had since the end of August, which is kind of when work calmed down, I have finally rolled credits on Skyward Sword, which anyone who's been listening to this show for the last sort of 6 weeks will know I started ages ago and basically had to just take an enormous break from, as I say, because of work. So I powered through that at the start of my holiday. I still had quite a bit to go, actually. I was surprised at how much game that game packs in, to be totally honest. I will say I really enjoyed it, but it does get quite repetitive, I felt, towards the end. It sends you back to each of the three kind of main zones 2 or 3 times by the end to just kind of complete things or revisit areas with new powers, or, you know, it just changes the environment in slight ways, which was all quite fun in terms of the story and how it was being done, and the new challenges it was asking you to perform were good. And I've got to say, generally speaking, the puzzle design and the dungeon design in this game I thought were really fantastic in places. Not always, as these things always are, there are some misses within all that, but some great stuff there. But by the end I was like, I just kind of want this to be over now. I've kind of got the point that you're trying to get across to me, and I've had fun with it, but I just kind of want this to come to a conclusion now. That's the typical thing as well, where I was trying to finish Skyward Sword so that I could move on to something else, which is the trap that you get into a little bit doing podcasts like this, but just generally being a gamer. I think when you see that the horizon coming of the next game that you want to play, you know, it's about to become released and you just want to get through what you're already playing.
Absolutely.
But yeah, overall really enjoyed it, had good fun with the combat. I think it's a really interesting game for Zelda fans in terms of where it sits within the lore and all of that, and I think that there are elements there which could really reasonably turn up in Breath of the Wild 2, which is kind of why I was playing it in the first place. So overall enjoyed it, quite glad I played it and stuck with it to the end. And beyond that, I've not been playing a ton, Mark. I've started a game on Switch which is also on mobile called Overboard. It's a sort of reverse murder mystery game, but I've played so little of it that I'm just going to save it until I've played more to mention it more fully. And the big one, the one that you in particular have been waiting for, Mark.
Is it timeless?
It is time. It's got to be time. Time has come. I'm making my sort of formal assault on Bloodborne.
You've announced it. We've got it signed off by the UN. The assault is happening.
Yeah, it's all above board. It's a legal war on Yharnam.
Yeah. Sorry, that had a lot of connotations around the Afghanistan war. I didn't really mean that.
Yeah, as regular listeners will know, I have got to play Bloodborne before the Game Awards come around this year because of last year's prediction bet. And I did make a small start on it a few months ago before I moved house, and it just wasn't the time at that point. There was no point trying to persevere with it. But with September rolling around and work calming down and just having a bit more headspace, I feel like I can tackle a game that is infinitely stressful and dark and horrible and sort of muddy and wet and disgusting. So I've not played much. I've got as far as I've ever got in it so far. I'm literally at the first boss fight at the moment with the Cleric Beast. I have played that before with you, Mark, back in like 2016. Yep. That was the first time that you ever played the game, and you fell off it shortly after that as well, I believe.
Indeed.
Yeah, once I have beaten him, I'm in uncharted territory, and I've played that first.
It's so early, Liz.
That's the thing. Like, I've played that first couple of hours. Honestly, I could not tell you how many times from various attempts, but this is it. So my plan is to play it alongside some other games so that it doesn't feel too kind of weighty and too dominant of my time, because a bit like Hollow Knight, I'm worried that it's going to frustrate me quite a lot until I get good at it, and I want to have some other things on the back burner. But this is it. Starting the campaign. Expect to hear about it for a few weeks, dear listeners.
Well, Liz, I am absolutely riveted that you have started this. Absolutely delighted that you've started this. I desperately want to talk to you about this game, so I will not be tired of hearing you talk about it. Bloodborne is so good. You will be stressed. You will have to get good, but god damn it, man, it's so worth it. It is so worth it.
Nice. Can't wait.
All right, Liz. Time for the news. Alright, let's news item number 1. There has been a final ruling in the Epic Games versus Apple case. And if you have read any headlines about this, you might have been led to believe that lowly Epic have won against the Colossus that is Apple. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that is absolutely not the case. That is absolutely not true. And in fact, the judge has only ruled on the side of Epic in 1 out of the 10 counts brought against Apple. The court has also ordered Epic to pay damages to Apple for breach of the development contract. And Epic have been made to pay Apple's legal fees. So I think that should tell you all that you need to know with regards to who the courts thought won this case. Now, we are not going to recap the entire Epic versus Apple case because, quite frankly, life is too shortless, but GamesIndustry.biz have an amazing rundown of basically everything that led up to the trial itself, and for anyone that wants to know more information on it, we'll link to that over in the show notes over at players2.com, and the guys at GamesIndustry.biz have done like a truly fantastic job covering this case, so head over there if you want to know more. But Lewis, the one thing that the judge did side with Epic on was that Apple cannot restrict developers from including links and buttons that would point users to external payment options, meaning that developers will now be able to use alternative payment options outside of the App Store to take payments, avoiding Apple's 30% take, which will come into effect on December the 9th. But Lewis, still no competing app stores allowed on Apple devices. Apple will still be taking their 30% cut if you do choose to make your payments through the App Store. Apple don't have to allow Fortnite back on iOS, but if you listen to Tim Sweeney, I don't think that was really an option anyway. And Apple can still terminate Epic affiliated developer accounts, e.g. Apple could take down every single iOS game that uses the Unreal Engine, which would hurt Epic but would cripple hundreds if not thousands of developers. Epic have announced in the last couple of days that they plan to appeal on all counts, even the one that went in their favour, unbelievably. Apple have yet to decide whether they are going to appeal. Epic still have court cases pending against Google over their Play Store and very similar allegations happening over there. So this is definitely not the end of this list. But what are your thoughts on this newest piece of information that we have here?
Well, yeah, I mean, it should be the final piece of information in some ways, but it doesn't feel like this story is anywhere close to being over still.
Absolutely not. Absolutely goddamn not. There's going to be appeals, there's going to be another trial, they're going to have the Google one after this. Oh man, this is going to be years we'll be talking about this.
Yeah, I think so, and I mean, it's already thrown up so many interesting bits and pieces over the months that it's been going. I don't know what to make of it, honestly. I think it's hard to see why anyone is describing Epic as the winner here, as much as the change in payment terms was one of the core elements of their pursuit against Apple and is in some ways, one of the biggest things that they were ever likely to win from this case. Its impact for other developers, not really for Epic necessarily, but for other developers could be really massive. But if they can't put Fortnite back on iOS, then they haven't really won anything too directly as things stand. I think in a lot of ways this has panned out kind of exactly as we all thought it would, that it was going to be extraordinarily difficult to prove that Apple are a monopoly, even though I think the judge has made some comments that, were kind of transcribed by journalists as essentially the judge saying, you didn't really present the case well enough, but there is something in this argument. So,
well, that was it. I cannot believe that one of the main stumbling blocks on this case was that Epic didn't prove that Apple are a monopoly on a platform which they don't allow anyone else on. I mean, I cannot fathom that.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot going on there in terms of business law and stuff that we don't have any understanding of to begin with, but from the very beginning, we all were kind of saying this, it's going to be really difficult for Epic to get anything here, but hopefully for the good of the industry and more than anything for the good of the consumer, really, us, they might get some victories here. Ultimately, a point that I made months and months ago when we've been talking about this, if you are a Fortnite gamer, if you like Fortnite and you have an iPhone, you have still lost here, and Epic bear a part of the blame for that. Like, you can't play that game on one of the devices that you might want to play it on because of the tactics that Epic deployed to try and do all this. But ultimately, if you are a developer of other games, or even other types of apps, I suppose, and you can now link out to other payment methods, which means you don't have to lose the 30% cut to Apple and you get all of that money, then that's a really good thing, and that's good for us as gamers that money stays within the development community and doesn't just go to the California massive. So I just
definitely how they're known. How they're known.
So I don't know. I mean, it's such a complex thing. It was so weird seeing the kind of journalistic takes off the back of it, declaring Epic won, while other journalists were tweeting saying like Epic have been battered here, they've lost in 9 out of 10 counts. A weird scenario at the end of an extremely weird saga.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to make of it either, Lewis, if I'm completely honest with you. I'm not sure that anyone's really won here. I mean, I think that it's good news for developers on the Apple ecosystem. I think it's relatively good news for consumers, but ultimately, I don't really think anyone's come out of this looking very good.
No, absolutely not.
Alright, let's news item number 2. It seems very likely that Nintendo will be expanding their Nintendo Online Switch service to include Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. This rumour originally comes from known industry insider Nate Drake on his Nate the Hate podcast, and apparently all stems back to a data mine in 2019 that revealed that there were 4 emulators inside Nintendo's NES app, basically, one of which has long been rumoured to be a Game Boy emulator. The rumours themselves have now been corroborated by Nintendo Life and separately by Eurogamer, so I think that there was a very real chance that this is happening and happening soon. And with the release of the OLED Switch on October the 8th just around the corner now, it wouldn't surprise me at all if this tied in with that release, you know. Eurogamer have actually gone so far as to say that they have heard that other retro platforms are also on the cards, e.g. we could be seeing other emulations as part of the Nintendo Switch Online service, one of which surely has to be the N64 emulator that I think the vast majority of people on Switch probably want, you know. And just another bolt-on piece of information here. It came out today that due to the impending release of the OLED Switch, as we just mentioned, and quote-unquote exchange rates, the OG Switch will be permanently reduced in price in Europe, making it £260 or €300, down from £280 or €330. I have very little doubt that the rest of the world will also be seeing a price drop of some sort pretty soon as well. But Lewis, Game Boy emulation, the potential for more retro platforms to be coming to the Nintendo Switch Online service. What are your thoughts?
I think this is good. I hope it's true. As you said, Mark, it's something that has been rumoured for a while. I'm sure we discussed it ages and ages and ages ago.
Oh, I'm sure we did, yeah.
When there was rumours about it. And the idea that there are other emulators still to be sort of unlocked, or whatever the word would be, which, as you say, like the N64 is definitely the one that people are clamouring for. Although porting the controls for that might be odd. I mean, it's a strange controller.
Yeah,
but
I must admit, that is what I was thinking. The controller for the N64 is a wild one.
Yeah, and so they might have to be some pretty odd button mapping going on or something, or maybe they'll just start selling a peripheral. Well, that's one of their main things, isn't it? To just sell
that's
you
what
more
they've done
stuff.
with NES and SNES,
Yeah.
so it wouldn't surprise me at all, yeah.
Like, I don't have a huge history with Game Boy. I owned a Game Boy Color, as I've said recently, only to play Pokemon on, and I'm not really sure what games this could bring or would bring, but I think that service could do with an update, and this just feels right. These are games that are basically lost to most people at this point, and, you know, it makes sense for them to be on Switch more than almost any other Nintendo back catalogue thing. It's a handheld console, you know. Why not bring some of those Game Boy classics to it? So I don't know, what is your thinking? You probably played a wee bit more Game Boy than I did.
I probably did, to be honest with you, but I think that the success of this will probably live and die by how many Pokemon games are there, let's be honest.
Yeah, and a couple of classic
I'm
Marios.
not really... Well, that is true as well, and a couple of classic Marios, absolutely. But a lot of them are already on the SNES and the NES, you know what I mean? I mean, the Game Boy versions of those games, are they going to be better than that? Probably not, you know what I mean? I think the preferred way to play was on those old school consoles. I don't really know how many Game Boy dedicated Mario games there were, but yeah, obviously they should be there first and foremost, I think. And then the Pokemon games. I think that they might not be there, frankly. I'm not entirely sure that the Pokemon games are going to be there because Nintendo are currently going through the course of remaking a lot of them, you know what I mean, and there are new versions of a lot of them. Are they going to put the old games on there and potentially undercut that? I don't know that is a very Nintendo-y move, but I would love to see them there. That would be really, really awesome. Alright, let's news item number 3. Horizon Forbidden West pre-orders have gone live this week, which has caused a bit of a backlash online, as neither the standard nor the special edition version of the games will come with quote-unquote dual entitlement, meaning that neither of the two most popular versions of the games will include a free PlayStation 5 upgrade, which in turn meant that a lot of people who cannot physically purchase a PlayStation 5, it has to be pointed out, due to supply line issues, maybe stuck playing a PS4 version of the game, and that really sucks, particularly because PlayStation said that they would be offering a free upgrade to this game. Their excuse for not doing that now was that it was moved outside of the PlayStation 5's release window when that comment was made, effectively. But you would have to buy the $80 digital deluxe version, the $200 collector's edition, or the $260 regala edition if you did want dual entitlement on the game. Now, this was obviously a fucking bullshit and stupid decision that caused a huge amount of outrage online, which caused CEO Jim Ryan to release this statement a few days later, reversing the decision entirely.
Thursday was to be a celebration of Horizon Forbidden West and the amazing team at Guerrilla working to deliver it on February 18th, 2022. However, it's abundantly clear that the offerings we confirmed in our pre-order kickoff missed the mark. Last year, we made a commitment to deliver free upgrades for our cross-gen launch titles, which included Horizon Forbidden West. While the pandemic's profound impact pushed Forbidden West out of the launch window we initially envisaged, we will stand by our offer. Players who purchase Horizon Forbidden West on PlayStation 4 will be able to upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version for free. I also want to confirm today that moving forward, PlayStation's first-party exclusive cross-gen titles, newly releasing on PS4 and PS5, both digital and physical, will offer a $10 digital upgrade option from PS4 to PS5. This will apply to the next God of War and Gran Turismo 7 and any other exclusive cross-gen PS4 and PS5 titles published by Sony Interactive Entertainment.
I mean, Lewis, first and foremost, what the fuck did they think was going to happen? Did they think everyone was just going to go, oh, well, you promised this thing and now you've just taken it back in a really, really bullshitty way, but we don't care, we're the internet, we're famously calm about situations like this. What the fuck did they think was going to happen here? Secondly, the fact that they were so quick to change their mind on this decision, why wouldn't they have just ordered the pre-upgrade in the first place? Why wouldn't they have done that? Why cause this shitstorm for yourself? It is such an unbelievably stupid decision. I think that it is good that they have been very clear about how they're going to deal with this moving forward. This is going to be a $10 flat rate. I don't know how much that will translate to here in the UK or in Europe, but around the $10 mark to upgrade a PS4 game to a PS5 game, that is fine. But at the same time, why are we just hearing about this now? We're knocking on the door of a year of PlayStation 5. Surely to God they could have communicated this better. I think that is really my complaint here, to be honest with you. PlayStation keep on making stupid decisions around releasing and pricing and stuff like that, and more importantly, the communication around it has been so poor, which is continually casting them in a bad light, really needlessly, and it's starting to look very bad, basically, because they keep on doing dumb shit like this and then taking it back.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, really, Mark. It's embarrassing, it's kind of baffling, it's, a bizarre series of events that they keep repeating it, they keep standing on the same rake. When the PlayStation 5 was announced, way back when, or on the eve of its launch, why weren't they in a position right then to say any cross-gen titles, there will be a $10 upgrade, and that'll be the end of it? Xbox have shown them up really badly with how smoothly smart delivery works, how easy it is to move from generations and across generations on Xbox. PlayStation have not only got the technical aspects of it not really as well as they should have done, but the communication, the pricing, all of it is just baffling. This stuff with Horizon in particular, with something like 7 or 8 different versions of the game, all these collector's editions that all offer different stuff, including bringing this cross-gen upgrade into that mix, like, that shouldn't be anywhere near that stuff, in my opinion. Like, if you want to sell an edition that comes with a statue and a fancy map and stuff, that's fine, but leave the upgrade stuff out of all of that. That should just be, as we're now seeing, something that is the same for all games, no matter what options there are, right? Going forward, it's just $10. Everyone understands where we stand. You can make your decisions based on that. They've even left themselves in the weird position now where the PlayStation 4 version of Horizon will be cheaper than the PS5 one. So you can actually get the PS5 version cheaper by buying the PS4 one and then getting the free upgrades. There's so many things going on here that for a company the size of Sony, who should have been able to see all of this coming, they've just bungled it. And it feels to me a wee bit like they had a strategy for launching the PlayStation 5 and their launch window titles, some of which, originally were not thought to be cross-generation at all. And the pandemic and the parts shortages have changed all of that, and they have not really reacted to any of it, except to get it all wrong again and again and then have to make these embarrassing climb downs.
Absolutely, man. I just think that Xbox really are showing up PlayStation on particularly the communication front. Like, I just think that they are just so much more clear and concise about what they're doing at any given moment. I think that they have great spokespeople that I just don't think that PlayStation have, really, particularly Phil Spencer, you know what I mean, who I think does a great job. Whether you love him or you hate him, he's fucking good at his job,
yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just need to get better at stuff like this. It's just faux pas after faux pas, do you know what I mean? It's just, there's no need for this to happen in this way. There's no need for these stupid decisions to be made and to be kicking up shitstorms on the internet every few weeks, do you know what I mean? It's just daft. There's no need for it. Get yourselves together. As you said, I think it is a complete lack of swift reaction to a very swiftly changing world that we all live in right now, and they've just reacted poorly, certainly. Alright, list news item number 4. Some positive PlayStation news, or I see it as positive PlayStation news. PlayStation have purchased a UK-based studio called Firesprite, who had previously worked on the Playroom and the Playroom VR. The general thinking being that Firesprite will work on a new game for the upcoming PSVR 2. You may never have heard of this studio, but they are made up of ex-Liverpool studio employees who are responsible for creating the Wipeout franchise and were infamously shut down by Sony in 2012 after being with Sony from the very beginning. But this is by no means a small studio. They have 250 employees. That counts as pretty big in my book, I would say. This obviously comes off the back of the purchase of Housemarque, who recently released Returnal to a lot of critical acclaim, and Nixxes, who are specialists in porting games to PC. And I think that we are all basically waiting for the ball to drop on Bluepoint as well. Although, to be honest, I did think that would come before now. PlayStation have also invested in Jade Raymond's studio, Haven, and UK-based Deviation Games, made up of ex-Treyarch devs, and Firewalk Studios, who are made up of ex-Bungie devs, all of whom could easily be acquired by PlayStation in the future, depending on how their games do as exclusives on their platform. And to be honest with you, I almost think that is the goal of investing in those studios, you know what I mean, getting in at the ground floor sort of thing and helping them produce a big game and then hopefully bringing them on board as part of the quote-unquote PlayStation family, you know. What do you make of all this, Liz? What do you make of all these moves that PlayStation are making right now? Purchases, investing in studios. This is what Herman Hulst said he was going to do, basically. They said that they were going to be aggressively investing in first-party games, and they seem to be making good on that promise.
Yeah, good to see them live up to some promises that they've made, unlike our last story. I think this is cool. I think, as you say, I didn't really know much about Firesprite, but obviously Wipeout has quite an enormous history on PlayStation, really. I mean, for most people, it would be, you know, one of the first franchise, if you go all the way back as we do, terrible old people that we are now.
Terrible.
It'll be one of the, you know, earliest games on PlayStation platforms that a lot of people will have played in Wipeout. So I think it's great. It's nice to see that studio that got canned are now, you know, by a circuitous route, are back under the Sony umbrella, and hopefully that is successful going forward. Who knows what they're going to make? They've been making the Playroom games recently. It seems like there's rumours that they might be doing some VR stuff, which is great to see Sony back in that and investing in studios on that side as well, if that is what they end up doing. I think generally the strategy, I quite like it. I mean, obviously it would be flashier and bigger business if they went and bought a Bethesda-style company, obviously. And none of these acquisitions or investments really compete with that directly, evidently. But I like to hope, at least, that what we're seeing is an investment in the future of the industry, rather than what Xbox did in the Bethesda deal. And no, this is no shade here at all, but they took an established thing. You know, they bought Lionel Messi and they put them into their... I mean, that's probably overstretching Bethesda.
Lovely football analogy there.
Yeah. You know, they took the best, or one of the best, and they brought them in-house, and it feels like what PlayStation are doing is, you know, to continue the footballing metaphor, they're investing in youth, and they're looking at, you know, what different directions do we want to go in, how are we going to build out our portfolio over the next decade or 2 decades, rather than just what big IP can we bring in. It's more like, who is the future of this industry, and where should we put our money for that? Let's make sure there's some VR games, let's make sure there's some multiplayer studios, let's make sure we're definitely investing in the best storytellers that are emerging, or, you know, in the case of Jade Raymond, who've been around for a while but need someone to back her properly. I like all of that. Let's hope it pans out that way. I mean, some of these might not go anywhere. It did feel with Returnal that was essentially an audition for Housemarque.
Oh, totally. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
And I don't love that. I don't love the idea that if someone puts a game out and it just doesn't quite connect with an audience, that PlayStation will kind of be like, well, see you later. But hopefully it's not as straightforward as that, and that they would just continue to work with these dev studios and help them grow and help them become something that is worthy of being part of PlayStation Studios going forward. So it's a thumbs up for me. I think I'm quite interested to see what comes of it all.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that your analogy was pretty good there, Lewis. I think that Xbox needed IP, like, right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that made the Bethesda purchase make a lot of sense, because Bethesda have some of the biggest IP in video games, and they were available for purchase, and there's very few people that could have actually purchased them in the way that Xbox did. So I think that it worked all the way around. You know what I mean? Outside of Halo, I feel as though a lot of the Xbox IP, particularly thinking about Gears of War, if I'm completely honest, have sort of waned over the years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although Halo's still absolutely gigantic, of course. Whereas I feel as though PlayStation IP have really surged over the PlayStation 4 generation, really, and are still surging now. And PlayStation now are in a position where they have some of the top IP in the world, so they are looking more for not what is the biggest thing in the world right now, not what is the biggest IP that we can purchase right now, but what is the next biggest IP that we can get in on at the ground floor here. Do you know what I mean? And get something really special in their mind, probably for quite cheap, rather than spending 7.5 billion on buying a publisher.
Exactly.
Alright, let's finish off as we always do with a couple of shout outs. Shout out number 1, and speaking of PlayStation exclusives, Lewis, Deathloop has come out this week and the reviews have been very positive indeed. Currently sitting with an 88 on PS5 and PC. Arcane seem to have pretty much nailed it again, to be honest with you. Let's hope this one sells better than Dishonored did. But Arcane, I think, have really established themselves as a top studio that really do not miss, to be honest. I think that they have knocked everything out of the park for quite a while now, to be honest with you. I have to say, I've been excited for this game for a long time. I know that you're basically in the same boat, Lewis, but do you think that this is weirdly a win for both PlayStation, as it is launching as a console exclusive on the PlayStation for at least a year, we believe? But Xbox now own this studio, of course, because of the Bethesda purchase that we were just talking about. So it seems to be a win for both, which is quite nice. Question mark? Yeah,
it is quite nice. Of course, the internet is still arguing about it somehow. But
those console wall rankers on both sides, fuck them. I don't care about them.
Absolutely. I mean, that is the way to look at it. I think, here we are. We've got a PlayStation exclusive, a game that PlayStation have backed and heavily marketed, as we've seen, and that it does feel like Sony are looking at Arcane's history and going, we need to really push this game, and they've put out probably too many trailers for a lot of us.
So many goddamn trailers.
On the flip side, it means in a year's time it's going to come to Xbox. It will almost certainly go into Game Pass, and Xbox gamers can look forward to potentially an entire new franchise from Arcane going forward. So I think it's great. I'm really excited to play it. I've been caught up in the buzz the last few days when the reviews have been dropping, and it just seems like it's going to be quite a special experience. I'm really looking forward to playing it.
Yeah, definitely. Very much high up on the to-play list now, Lewis, I have to say. Alright, Lewis, shout out number 2. Life is Strange True Colours has also come out this week and is also reviewed pretty well, I have to say. Currently sitting with an 81 on PS5, an 83 on Series X, and an 82 on PC. The story and the characterisation of Alex seem to be the game's strong points, as you might expect from a Life is Strange game, let's be honest. But I think that review score is being pulled down a little bit by technical issues, which is unfortunate. I think that technical issues like that are probably more forgivable when the game is an episodic release. But I think when you're charging full price for a game, you really have to be sorting that stuff out. But it does seem as though Deck 9 have basically picked up from where Don't Nod left off again, including the bugs.
It does seem that way, yeah, but it's been so well received by a lot of different reviewers that, and I've seen people mention it in their kind of updating Game of the Year list, that I never really thought that Life is Strange would hit again like that. I really thought Life is Strange 1 sort of caught a moment and was doing something really interesting, and since then each one has maybe not been quite as special, but here we are. Like, this has captured people's attention again. I know that you'll be playing it, right?
Definitely,
I would quite like to. Again, given the kind of buzz around it at the moment, I haven't played Before the Storm or Life is Strange 2, and I mean, not that they're connected, I don't really think that matters, but I feel like maybe I should play them first, but good on it for doing so well here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those games are not connected at all. You could definitely jump into Life is Strange True Colours and then play Life is Strange 2, then Before the Storm in backwards order if you wanted. None of that really matters, I wouldn't say. The only two that are really connected, to be honest with you, is Life is Strange 1 and Before the Storm. The other three can be played at random. But let's shout out number 3, WarioWare Get It Together has also come out this week and is currently sitting with a 75 on Switch. Basically, this game was never going to get 9s and 10s, let's be honest here, Luce. But as a party game, it honestly seems to be pretty good. And if you actually read the reviews, they say as much. It is also one of the rare cases where the user reviews on Metacritic are actually higher than the critic reviews, which I think for a game of this type is a pretty good sign. So while that score might seem underwhelming, actually for the game that it is, I think that it's fine. Alright, final shout out number 4. It has been announced on Twitter by Techland that Dying Light 2 has been delayed again. The game was due out in early December, but is actually going to be coming out in February the 4th, 2022. The game was originally shown off at E3 2018, believe it or not. And then at E3 2019, it was announced that the game would be coming out in spring 2020. But in January 2020, the game was delayed indefinitely, and there was serious questions around the quality of the game as well. And then in March of this year, after a good number of key people left the studio, it has to be said, Techland admitted that they had announced the game too early. The phrase "no shit" jumps to mind there. But recently, we have got a good number of trailers, to be fair, and we have seen a good amount of gameplay, which honestly I thought looked pretty good. I mean, considering what the game was going for, I thought it looked pretty good for what it was, you know? So let's hope that they've sorted themselves out with this long delay when they delayed the game indefinitely for a while, and that this delay is just polish, and that the turbulent development cycle is capped off with a really good game, hopefully.
Yeah, take the time that you need as ever, but it would be good to see this actually launch at some point. It does, yeah, it feels like it needs to drop soon or those questions will come back, but hopefully it's just that polish, as you say.
Absolutely. It does seem as though it's brushed those questions aside and now they've suddenly all cropped back up again, unfortunately. But yeah, let's hope that this is just putting the final layer of polish on a very good game. Alright, Liz, and with that, I think it's time for a beer, and then we'll be back for Topic of the Week. And we are back for Topic of the Week. Topic of the Week this week is our recap of the PlayStation Showcase, Lewis. Very excited for this one, I have to say. Was very much looking forward to the showcase, and spoiler alert, I liked it quite a lot.
You're not alone.
Right, so let's just jump right into it. The first announcement, and kicking off with a big one, Knights of the Old Republic remake. It was just a little teaser, no date of course, but something that has been rumoured for a long time, and perhaps a little surprising that it's going to be launching as a console exclusive on PlayStation.
It is indeed, yeah, a surprise on all fronts. Didn't expect to see it here. Obviously, I'd heard the rumours before, but, you know, there's been no indication recently that we were about to get an announcement, so I think this is quite exciting. It's a little strange that it's a PS5 console exclusive, but for me, as someone who kind of missed out on it the first time round, I'm quite excited to see how good this might turn out to be.
Yeah, obviously considered one of the greatest RPGs of that generation, certainly. I can understand why some sections of the Xbox console wars bullshit crowd are pretty disappointed in this, but at the same time, you just bought Bethesda for $7.5 billion. You've got the Elder Scrolls, you've got Fallout, you've got Doom. You can't be complaining too much, surely.
You've got all the other RPGs.
You've got all the other RPGs. We only needed one, and we got a good one. Just leave us alone. You can take all the other ones. Alright, Liz, after that was Project Eve. This very much looked like a Platinum Games game / DMC, was very much giving me that sort of vibe, and actually really made me think that it was some sort of near Bayonetta crossover, I have to say.
Yeah.
Looked very interesting, definitely something to keep your eye on. What did you think of this?
I mean, I thought of you as soon as it started. I thought it looked like it would be really up your street. I mean, visually incredible, some brilliant monster design, I thought. And yeah, exactly exactly as you say. I mean, if you haven't seen this yet and you played and liked Nier or Bayonetta or any of those types of games, I think it's something that you've absolutely got to keep your eye on, because it looks like such a clear cross between a lot of those things, set in a kind of interesting world. Or, I mean, it seemed to have kind of space elements and horror-y elements. A lot going on. Thought it looked really cool.
Basically, to me, it looked like Nier, but with monsters instead of like weird robots and stuff. I was quite into it, man. I've got to say, I was quite into it. After that was Tiny Tina's Wonderland. It looked very much like Borderlands, I have to say. This game obviously being a Borderlands spin-off, but with a fantasy aesthetic. But also, Lewis, it looked very much like Borderlands with a fantasy aesthetic, you know what I mean? Which was a little bit disappointing. I thought that they were maybe going to do something a wee bit different with this game, but it does really seem to just be Borderlands but with a fantasy aesthetic, you know? Yeah, I thought they might have been doing something different around the sort of D&D aspects of it all. It did seem to have some sort of overworld going on at one point within the trailer.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to come of that, but coming on March the 25th, definitely something to keep your eye on. More Borderlands is no bad thing, frankly, but I did just think that it might have been slightly more than, once again, Borderlands with a fantasy aesthetic. After that, Lewis, Forspoken, and we got to see a little bit more of this in terms of the gameplay, and we learned a little bit more of what was actually happening in the world in terms of the story. I have to say, I thought that the environments looked fantastic. Some of them looked amazing, frankly, but the character models looked quite Square Enix, and take that for what you will. But to be honest with you, I really don't care about any of that, because the combat and the movement in this game looks absolutely incredible and frankly insane. It's coming in spring 2022. I have to admit, the more we see this game, the more I'm getting excited for it, despite some dodgy character models.
Yeah, I really agree. I thought it was a great trailer. It showed a lot of different sides of the game. Sort of has almost like a sort of Assassin's Creed feel about it in terms of the real world, and then enter in this other kind of dimension or whatever's going on. You know, a bit of a fish out of water character. As you say, the movement, the combat, all of that side of things, the powers that she seems to have, I think are really impressive and quite exciting. For me, that it wasn't the character models that was the downside, it was the dialogue. I thought the writing, that was what made me go, oh, this isn't a first party Sony game, it's a Square Enix game. I just thought that particularly the way the bracelet thing was talking to her, I was just very quickly like, oh, I hope that they aren't just chatting back and forth all through the game constantly with funny little quips, you know. I was just like, just run about, just blow stuff up with your mad powers. That's the cool stuff. Stop talking.
Stop talking. We're being very rude to Square Enix here, Les. Very rude indeed. After that was Rainbow Six Extraction. Not sure that we learned anything at all from this trailer, if I'm totally honest, in terms of the story or the gameplay. But the game is coming out in January 2022. After that, Lewis, was the Alan Wake remaster. This, again, is apparently the first time that this game is coming to the PlayStation, which I didn't actually realise, I have to say. Alan Wake is always something that I sort of wanted to play but never really got round to it, to the point where apparently I never even tried to search it on the PlayStation Store because I wouldn't have found it. So I didn't even realise that. It's coming on October the 5th. This has been rumoured for a long time, and I think that a lot of people are going to jump on this basically because the game has a fantastic reputation. It's got a bit of a cult following. It definitely made Remedy the studio that they are today. I don't think without Alan Wake we would have Control, and that would be a real shame.
Yeah, I think this is great. I'm quite looking forward to playing it. I actually did buy the original on the Epic Store a wee while ago because it was going super cheap, and just haven't got around to playing it yet, but I'll definitely be picking it up on PlayStation at some point. If it in any way continues this relationship with Control that Remedy seem to be building, I think it is exciting times for fans of both of these franchises because, yeah, as you say, it's a cult classic, and I think that a lot of people are going to want to dive into this.
After that was GTA 5, which announced that it was coming to its third PlayStation console, Lewis. It's coming on March the 22nd. That'll be coming on Xbox as well. It's just the next gen version of GTA 5. The legs on this game, Lewis, are simply unbelievable. After that was Ghostwire Tokyo. I still don't really know what to think about this game, I have to say. I went from being very excited about it to really not being so excited about it, and then I saw this trailer again and I was like, no, I do actually think that this looks really good. In terms of the aesthetic, I'm getting a real, speaking of Control, a real sort of Japanese Control vibe about it, which I'm really, really into. But no date still. This game was supposed to be coming out this year, so far as I'm aware, and we still don't have a release date, which is slightly concerning, I would say.
Yeah, and had lost its director before and stuff. I totally agree with you, Mark. The aesthetic, the world, all of that stuff really appeals to me, but the gameplay that we've seen doesn't really turn me on too much, so I'm still kind of waiting to see a bit more of this before I come down on either side.
After that was Guardians of the Galaxy. We got to see a bit more in terms of gameplay and learned a bit more about the story as well. I think Eidos Montreal have clearly learned from some of Crystal Dynamics' Avengers mistakes. I'm not sure the game could have went much worse for Crystal Dynamics, to be completely honest with you. I really don't know how you fuck up the Avengers in this day and age, but there we have it. I think that this game seems to be differentiating itself from the movies well enough. I think that it looks like it's really nailed the tone that Guardians of the Galaxy is famous for, that the comics were famous for even before the movies. I am basically 1,000 times more interested in this game than I ever was in the Avengers. Not that the Avengers was setting that bar very high, because 1,000 times very little is still very little. But it is coming on October the 26th.
Yeah, I can't see myself playing this, to be honest, but it does, I agree with you, it looks better than the Avengers game looked ahead of its launch. I'm sure for fans it's going to push the right buttons, and that's kind of what it's there for.
Yeah, absolutely. After that was Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt, and we actually got to see some gameplay this time, Lewis, which is good because I wasn't really sure how this game was going to look. This is the Vampire the Masquerade Battle Royale game. To be honest with you, Lewis, I was sort of pleasantly surprised. I thought this game could have been an absolute car crash. It's not for me. I'm not going to play it. It's supposed to be coming later this year, apparently. But I'm glad that we got to see some real gameplay and get a better idea of what the game actually is. And it looks a lot more fun than I think I'd initially give it credit for, to be honest. After that was the obligatory Deathloop trailer, of course, Liz, but we have already spoke at length about that and the game is already out, so let's just skip over that entirely to possibly the weirdest announcement of the whole showcase was Kid Amnesia Experience, which is something by Radiohead and Epic Games. Lewis Camley, possibly the biggest Radiohead fan I know. Thoughts?
I'm extremely excited about this. It's part of Radiohead's campaign around the anniversary. I think it's the 20th anniversary of Kiddy and Amnesiac. No idea what this is going to be. Some sort of interactive, playable experience, exhibition, who knows. But yeah, I was very excited to see this come up. It was one of the only things that I didn't know was going to happen by the time I came to watch the show, and it really caught me off guard. So I was dead excited for that.
It's a truly bizarre announcement, ladies and gentlemen, but if you're a Radiohead fan like Lewis, maybe you're interested in it. That is coming in November as well. After that, Lewis, was Chia. This is a game inspired by New Caledonia, which is a Pacific island, sort of near Australia. And actually, I had to Google this because I didn't know where New Caledonia was. And apparently, it was named by James Cook because he thought it looked like Scotland. So there we go. Yeah, that's quite
nice. Must play then.
Yeah, a nice colonial tie there to New Caledonia. I've definitely seen this somewhere before, but I don't think the first time we got to see a lot of gameplay. And the gameplay just seems to be Breath of the Wild-esque exploration, but you're inhabiting the bodies of animals as you go? Question mark? I don't really know what the game is beyond that. I mean, it does obviously have a sort of little story, very much indie game in scale. No date as yet, but I think one to keep an eye on.
I think so too. It made me think of Mario Odyssey, actually, that possession of other things to solve puzzles.
I like that, yeah.
Something about that I thought looked really nice. I'm quite excited to see a bit more of that.
After that, Lewis, was Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection. This was the long-rumoured remaster for the PlayStation 5 and PC, but it does only contain 2 games. It's only Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy, I believe. Is that slightly surprising to you, Lewis? It's not just the full series?
I mean, it's slightly surprising, but when you think about the fact that it means that at some point they can sell us the full collection of all of them a little bit further down the line, I'm not massively surprised in that sense. Yeah, I'm not sure who this is appealing to, unless you've never played any of them and you're coming in at this end point, but you know, they were both fairly, you know, mid to late gen PS4 games. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's good altogether. I can't say I'm very excited about it, even though I liked both of those games, you know.
I mean, yeah, I think that, well, I've not played Lost Legacy, but 4 was definitely my favourite of the sort of original series, if you like. PlayStation obviously continuing to push into the PC space, which is good for PC gamers, good for everyone, I think, really, and that is coming in early 2022. Sorry if you can hear the paper turning, ladies and gentlemen. We are on physical notes, of course, because it is a big showcase. But Lewis, after that was one of the biggest, in fact, definitely the biggest surprise of the showcase. It was Marvel's Wolverine. And this is coming from Insomniac of Spider-Man and Ratchet fame, of course. Again, this was an absolutely huge surprise to me. I don't think that there has ever been a good X-Men game, so far as I'm aware anyway, but in Insomniac we trust. It was literally just a tease, no date at all, but what were your thoughts on this?
I mean, completely stunning, as you say. Not rumoured, not leaked in advance, given that it's a Marvel property, given how popular Wolverine is as a character. I mean, there's long been a clamour for a decent Wolverine game, but I don't think we've ever really had one. Never mind for the wider X-Men either. I don't know what to think of this. I don't know what type of game this is going to be. I'm not sure, looking at what Insomniac do. I mean, it would be easy to think that it's just going to be a Spider-Man clone, but with Wolverine, but it doesn't really fit and doesn't feel like it would work. So is it going to be a brawler? Is it going to be a more mature game even than Spider-Man is? It looks it from that little teaser. A lot of big questions. I'm a little wary of Insomniac becoming the Marvel studio. I hope that they don't just start making Marvel games kind of exclusively, but altogether this is super exciting. Can't wait to find out a bit more about it.
Well, Insomniac's track record says to me that they do not miss.
Yeah.
Talking about Arcane and studios that don't miss, Insomniac do not miss. So I am all on board for this, and I'm very excited to learn more about this game. After that, Lewis, was Gran Turismo, and I'm going to be brutally honest here. I think that this was one of the major disappointments of the show. Not that it was particularly a game for me, it wasn't a game that I was going to play, but in terms of racing games, I don't think that it looked as good as Forza, basically. I don't think that it looked bad, I think that it looked pretty good, to be honest with you, but Forza looked absolutely jaw-droppingly stunning, and it didn't look to that level, do you know what I mean? But more importantly, I think that the actual racing itself looked nowhere near as good as Forza, and I think that it's pretty clear that Forza have still got racing sims like locked down. Like, they obviously seem to be the best racing sim franchise quite clearly to me, and even from that trailer you can sort of see why. It is coming on March the 4th, so for Gran Turismo fans, maybe I'm being too harsh and you're really, really excited about it, but for me, I just thought that was an obvious step down, even from the trailer from Forza.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. I feel like there is probably a huge Gran Turismo fan base out there who will be excited for it, but I didn't think it looked graphically as impressive as what we saw. I guess it's easier to make something like Forza Horizon, you know, that Mexico setting and all that, look more exciting than the sort of Bridgestone-style racetracks, but yeah. I don't know, it doesn't warm me up at all. There's nothing about Gran Turismo really other than total nostalgia for playing it a bit when I was a kid, and it's not something that I'm going to be picking up at all, so there you go.
After that, Lewis, one of the biggest announcements of the show, Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2? Who knows? Spider-Man 2. You seem to play both as Spider-Man with Doc Ock arms now, and Miles Morales, which I like a lot, to be honest with you. It brings the two previous games together. But Venom is the bad guy, Lewis. I think that's the real announcement here, which is awesome because Venom is fucking badass and really cool. And I believe that also ties into the ending of the first game, if I'm remembering correctly, the sort of after credits
it does,
little tease, you know. It's not coming until 2023, so God knows when we're going to see that Wolverine game. Just a tease, but very exciting. Very, very exciting.
Yeah, really exciting. Glad to see this. Obviously, we knew that a Spider-Man sequel would be coming at some point. I agree, it will be great if both Peter and Miles are playable. However that pans out, if it's, you know, one's playable for half the game and one for the other half, or if you can switch between them, or, you know, mission to mission, who knows. I think the thing with Venom in particular is there was another voice throughout that trailer. It's someone else who's speaking the villain lines, and obviously the first Spider-Man game had multiple, you know, the Sinister Six were basically in it by the end. And so I think that there's going to be a lot more going on there. It felt, you know, we know, or at least I think we know who is in that Venom suit, and that might actually make it a lot more interesting and a lot more complicated than the films that we've seen Venom in, I suppose. So all of that, I mean, it'll just be great. I can't wait for more. Spider-Man 2, the original Spider-Man 2 was one of my favourite ever games as a kid, and so here we are again, back with a new Spider-Man 2, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, man, I've got to say, I am so buzzing for Spider-Man. I just love Spider-Man. Spider-Man is probably my favourite superhero, and the reason why he's my favourite superhero is probably because he's so good to play in video games.
Yeah. And that's 3 Marvel games in this showcase as well. I think that's an interesting thing. There's a lot of Marvel going on just now. Midnight Suns as well was obviously announced recently.
Absolutely. Well, it does have to be said that there has been some blowback on the Xbox front on that as well, but Xbox fans, I would say, you should not be complaining that PlayStation have got all these Marvel games. You should be complaining to Xbox and Phil Spencer that they don't have those Marvel games. Microsoft are a $2 trillion company. They can afford to get you these games. Complain to them. And Lewis, the final announcement, the big one, and it was the big one, God of War, Ragnarok, and good grief, Lewis. It looked exactly like what I wanted, and what I wanted was more fucking goddamn God of War. No date as yet. We're still hoping for sometime next year. But man, it was there, and I was really happy about it.
Yeah, this was so good to see. I guess it's one that we thought would be here, but still seeing it was incredible, and we got, chunks of gameplay. We saw...
I got to admit, I didn't think we were going to see as much gameplay. I thought it might have been a little tease, sort of akin to what we've seen from Spider-Man 2, but man, we did get to see a good bit of gameplay. Kratos being an absolute boss, and Christopher Judge's voice, oh my god.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is so good.
It looks like it's set a wee bit further down the line from the original game. Atreus has grown up a wee bit. You can hear it in the actor's voice, even that he's it's reaching breaking point, and I can't wait to see where this is going to go. I think subsequent to the showcase, one of the development team have said that this will end the Norse saga, like it's a duology rather than a trilogy. Who knows whether that'll definitely be true, but as we've discussed before, like if Ragnarok is coming in this game, and you can't call it that surely if it's not going to happen, this is going to have some pretty meaty climactic stuff. So given how fucking incredible the first game was, I cannot wait to see more of this. Hopefully it's coming pretty soon, but if we have to wait for this, it's definitely going to be worth it. It looks like more of the same in a lot of ways, but that is not a complaint at all. Like, just fill out the rest of that world. There was realms we never got to go to in the first game. Let's go there. Let's find more stuff. Let's kill Odin.
Absolutely, man. I thought that it looked great. I really, really did. I cannot wait for God of War. And that was it, Lewis. I have to say, there's been a lot of negativity, even on this podcast, around PlayStation, but there's one thing that PlayStation does well, and it's sell itself in showcases like this. I thought that this was a fantastic showcase. It was a really good length. Please take note, Xbox. This is a good length for this sort of showcase. It felt absolutely loaded. It wasn't broken up by deep dives into the devs. Like, I'm sure that whenever God of War rolls round, there'll be loads of deep dives into that. I'm sure that when Spider-Man rolls round, there'll be loads of deep dives into that. That is when you would want to see the devs. We want to be told in detail about what is happening with the game. And this is just a trailer showcase. I honestly thought that this was absolutely fantastic. I really did. Because this was basically their E3, or that's how I was seeing it. Do you know what I mean? This is akin to what they would have been doing at E3, but no one's really treating it in that manner. Nobody's comparing it to Xbox's E3 presentation, which was also really good, but no one's comparing it to anything else. They're totally in the spotlight by themselves. As far as I'm concerned, they've pretty much nailed it, and I think that really that gamble of not going E3 and doing something later in the year, when you have a showcase this strong, it sort of paid off, really, didn't it?
I think so, absolutely. Yeah, they've set the news agenda since that showcase came out. In fact, even from before it, just with the rumour mill, I think they absolutely knocked out the park. They brought banger after banger. Everything that they showed looked good, pretty much. And all the games that we were, or most of the games that we were hoping to see were there. We didn't get too many repeats of stuff that we've already seen. I thought a seamless, near perfect presentation of some really exciting upcoming stuff from PlayStation. It really paints the future of the PS5 in a positive light, because with the delay of Horizon confirmed recently, we didn't really know what's coming up. That doesn't mean to say anything's coming up this side of Christmas, but you look at that now and you go, yep, we're in safe hands. There's some really incredible stuff coming to PlayStation.
Absolutely, and again, I cannot stress enough the fact that this was only 45 minutes was so good. It was so fantastic. Alright, Liz, I think we'll have to call it a day there. I'd like to remind everyone that you can find Players 2 on all the social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, the lot. You can also find our written content over at players2.com. That's PLAYERSTOO.com. And if you could take 5 seconds to give us 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, it really, really, really helps us out. It does a huge amount for the exposure of the show. I know I say this twice a week, every single week, but it does not become less important on a weekly basis. While we're over there, if you could leave us a review as well, again, that just helps us out even more. And thank you so much to anyone that's already done that for us. It genuinely does mean a lot. Thank you so much. I'd like to remind everyone that our play-along game for this month is Little Nightmares. Not got started on it yet, but I've now got it downloaded loose. And to be honest with you, I might jump in on it pretty soon.
Yeah, exactly the same boat. I'm just going to rattle through it fairly soon, I think. Just looking forward to it. Looking forward to playing both of them back to back. Basically, that's the key thing for me is seeing how Little Nightmares develops across 2 games in quick succession.
Yeah, definitely, exactly the same. I'm really looking forward to playing the second game as well, which actually I think reviewed quite noticeably better than the first game, but we'll see how that developed over the 2 games, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing both of them, I have to say. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week.
Thanks.